Hey everybody, I hope you enjoyed my tutorial video for Francis Drake. I got the game now set up to show you a complete run through of a complete round of the game with a 4-player game between the Pasha, which is the orange player, then we got the red player controlling the Pelican ship, we got the blue player controlling the Elizabeth, and finally the green player is going to be captaining the Swan. Now I got everything set up for a 4-player game, so you can see the slight differences between the 3 and the 4-player game. The big difference is the fact that the board is going to be using the pre-printed locations for all locations on the board. Got everything set up, so the first thing we need to do is we need to figure out player order. So we're simply going to pull out the player ships and figure out their player order. And we're going to see that the Pelican is going to be our first captain on the Plymouth Harbor. Our second one is going to be the Pasha going across Plymouth Harbor. Third player is going to be the captain of the Elizabeth, which means the captain of the Swan will be the last player going into Plymouth Harbor to grab our supplies to get ready for our journey out into the Spanish Main. So since the red player happens to be the furthest one into Plymouth Harbor, they get to start placing their disc first, and they get to be the first one to choose any one of the locations on the location board. Now remember, the trick is once you bypass the location, you can't go backwards, so you need to start planning and planning very well exactly where you want to place your disc to start getting all your resources to head out into the Spanish Main. So red gets to go first, and they're actually going to take the very first location, which is going to be the crew location, which is going to give them 2 crew members to add immediately to their ship. They add their 2 crew members to their cruise ship, and now it's time for the orange player, which is the captain of the Pasha, to decide exactly what they want to do. Well, they're liking the fact that they can get 2 crew members, making this crew location still a very good location to visit for extra supplies. So they're going to go ahead and visit there. They're going to go ahead and get 2 crew members to add to their ship, so they start planning where exactly they want to go across the Spanish Main. The next player in line looks at the fact that they could get 1 crew member, or they can go directly to the shipyard, because remember, there's not enough locations on the board for every single player to get a ship upgrade from a frigate to a galleon every single round, making those spaces very, very desirable for all the players, especially if they want to get the bonus for causing the most amount of variety of havoc across the Spanish Main. So thinking about that, the blue player is going to bypass the crew, which means they can't go backwards and ever get that 1 crew member. They're going to go ahead and move to the shipyard, which is going to do 2 things since they're the first person to visit there. And if you ever forget, it's listed on each one of these locations. The first thing that's going to happen is their little frigate is going to upgrade into a mighty galleon. And remember, galleons are required to attack every one of these Spanish ships on the board. If you don't upgrade, you can't attack them on your round, so it's a decision you have to make. And since they're the first person to visit that location, they're also going to get a cannon to add to their ship. That ends the blue player's round. We now get to go to the green player, who is going to follow blue's lead. They're also going to go to the shipyard. They're going to upgrade their little frigate to a mighty galleon, so they have the option of start attacking some of these ships out there in the Spanish Main, especially if they get the resources to go ahead and do it, which means they're going to need cannons. And unfortunately, since they're the second one to visit the shipyard, they don't get that nice free cannon that the blue player got. So now it's the red player's turn, and they need to make a very quick decision. They need to make a smart decision, make sure it's the right decision for them, and make sure they're not bypassing too many resources. They know they can go for the guns, they know they can go for the supplies, or they can go anywhere else on the board they want to. Here's the trick. They know there's only 1 location left on the entirety of Plymouth Harbor, which is going to allow them to upgrade their frigate to a mighty galleon, which is going to allow them to go ahead and start attacking some of the Spanish galleons. Here's the trick though. They'll have to bypass guns, which is a potential of 2 guns, which can be used for attacking galleons and for also attacking forts. They'll also have to bypass 4 supplies, which could be 1 space, which allows them to go across the entire board just to go ahead and go after the Queen to upgrade their ship to get that cannon and a free trade good. That's a very tough decision they need to make, and it's not a decision that they're willing to make. So they're going to go ahead and hold back and decide that what they want to do is be able to sail as far as they want across the board. They're going to go to the location that's going to give them 4 supplies, which means now the red player has the ability to go anywhere they want on the board without having to worry about supplies, because they have 4 supply barrels, allowing them to go all the way out to the furthest section of the Spanish Main. Of course, to do that, they had to bypass the guns, so they need to make sure they don't bypass guns again, because if they do, they're not going to have anything to go out there and attack anything with, which is going to really limit their options when the turn comes back around. That does end the turn for the Pelican captain. We now get to move on to the Pasha captain, who can either go for guns, then go for supplies, or they can also go for the ship, because remember, there's only 1 location left, and if they don't take it, they're pretty darn positive that red's going to take it, so they now have a choice to make. The orange player is going to be a little bit gutsy, may not be the best decision, but they're going to go ahead and do it anyways. They're going to bypass the guns, they're going to bypass the supplies in the hopes they manage to land on this supply space so they're not totally hosed in the long run. And they're going to bypass these two spaces, and they're going to move all the way to the queen, which is going to give them three things. The first thing it's going to do is it's going to allow them to upgrade their frigate to a galleon, which means that they too now have the potential to attack some of these Spanish ships out there on the Spanish Main if they decide to do that. They're also going to get the ability to open one trade route on their board, and they're also going to get one cannon to put on their galleon as a gift from the queen to use to go out there and start attacking things across the Spanish Main. That does end the turn for the orange player. It's now the blue player's turn. The blue player already has their galleon. They know that they're either going to be attacking forts or they're going to be attacking Spanish ships, so they know they're going to need guns because both of those locations require guns. And there is a nice gun location available on the board, which if they go visit, is going to give them 2 guns to add to their ship, so they're definitely going to take advantage of that. They're going to add 2 more guns to their Elizabeth ship, which is going to put them at a total of 3 guns, which is going to be enough to attack quite a few locations, especially if they get a hold of the Admiral. We now come to the green player, the captain of the Swan, who definitely does not want to be held back in the supply department because it doesn't matter how well stocked their cannons are, how well stocked their crew is. If they can't sail across the Spanish Main, their turn's pretty much wasted. And they do see that there's a supply location with 2 supply barrels, so they can go ahead and take the 2 supply barrel location, which means they can at least get to this section of the Spanish Main on the board. They're going to add those 2 supply barrels to their board. That's ending their turn, and we now go back to the red player, the captain of the Pelican. Now remember, there's no backtracking on Plymouth Harbor, so the only way we can go is we can go forward. So the red player needs to decide what they want to be doing with their sailing phase when that turn comes around, so they need to be doing a lot of future planning right now. They know that unless they burn their investor token, there is no way they're going to get a ship on this turn. So they need to decide if they want to burn their investor or if they just want to bypass ships completely and start deciding they want to start attacking towns and also attacking forts. And both those things are going to require them to start having lots of crew members. So what they're going to do is they're going to go ahead and visit the tavern. And since they're the very first person to visit the tavern, they get to roll the die and they get to add a 1 to whatever they roll. And if they get a 1 through 2, it's going to possibly give them a ghost ship. A 3 to 4 is going to give them 2 crew members. And a 5 to 6 is going to give them 3 crew members. Remember, they get to add 1 to whatever they roll. So as long as we don't roll a 1, we're going to get at least 2 crew members. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to roll a 4. We're going to add 1 to that 4, which is going to be a total of 5. If we look at the chart, a 5 is going to give us 3 crew members, which is actually pretty darn decent, which is going to give us a chance to start attacking a couple cities and attacking a couple forts, assuming we get some cannons to start backing us up. Or if we happen to get lucky and manage to get to the space that's going to give us the longboats, which will allow us to completely bypass the cannons, which is another strategy we need to start thinking about as the captain of the Pelican. It's now time for the captain of the Pasha to figure out exactly what they want to do. And they're knowing they also want to visit the tavern because they're going to need some crew members. Because so far they only have 2 crew members, which isn't really enough to do what they want to do. They want to do what's going to give them the most victory points, attack a lot of locations. So the only place they can go is the tavern. Because remember, you can't backtrack on Plymouth Harbor. So we're going to go ahead and visit the tavern. And we're going to go ahead and roll the dice. And as long as we don't get a 1 or a 2, we're going to get some crew members. We're going to roll a 6, which is actually a very good roll for us. We're going to gain 3 crew members to add to our ship. We're now at a total of 5 crew members, giving us lots of options and let us know that maybe next thing we need to start concentrating on some cannons for our galleon. It's now the blue player's turn, the captain of the Elizabeth, and they know that they definitely want to control the Admiral because they only got 3 guns right now, and they definitely want to have enough guns to attack at least 1 galleon and also attack a fort and then also go for a town. And we don't have any crew members yet, so we know we need to control the Admiral to help us out to not need any more guns because we need to start concentrating on crew members. So we're going to go ahead as the Captain Elizabeth, we're going to go ahead and bribe the Admiral, which is going to give us a nice ability to control the Admiral, which means as the blue player, we get to know exactly which kind of cannons are guarding every one of these galleons because we're going to place these tokens out when the time comes when we start the sailing phase. The captain of the Swan is not liking how Plymouth Harbor is starting to get very crowded very, very quickly. And they're noticing that they can't go to the Queen because all the spaces have been taken. Can't visit the tavern because also the spaces are taken. And the same thing with the Admiral they can't visit because the only sole space there has already been taken by the other players. So the only thing they can do is go to trade goods or start going any further down on this route. The Swan player also realizes that they don't have any crew members and they don't have any cannons yet. And we have a galleon, which means we definitely want to start attacking ships. So we need to figure out what we need to do, and it looks like our hands are going to be pretty much tied, at least right now, trying to get the most resources we can for the least amount of discs and possibly get a hold of ahead of the other players. So we're going to go ahead and visit Drake himself, which is going to cost us 1 disc. And remember, when our turn comes back in, it's going to lock in that second disc. We have to visit Drake twice as he regales us with his mighty stories about his sailing across the Spanish Main. So the first thing we are going to get from him, visiting him, is we're going to get 2 crew members to add to our ship, the Swan. And then we're going to get 2 cannons to add to our ship, which is going to give us a little bit of stuff to at least start possibly having some effect on the Spanish Main when the sailing phase starts. It's now the turn for the captain of the Pelican, and the captain of the Pelican is already settled with their fate, knowing that they're not going to be attacking any galleons this round. And they're actually okay with that because we currently have 5 crew members, and we also notice that the pinnace space is open if we go ahead and take that. Granted, we're bypassing a lot of locations by doing that, but that's going to give us a couple of bonuses. First of all, we don't need to worry about cannons at all when we attack any of the forts because the longboats are going to allow us to sail in and completely avoid them. And since we're the very first person to use that space, there's a nice little bonus on that space saying the first person's also going to get 1 crew member, putting us at 6 crew members and guaranteeing that we don't need any cannons to attack any of these forts at all. So we just have to worry about whatever the player who controls the governor decides to place out, because we know right now we're also able to sail the furthest out into the Spanish Main. The captain of the Pasha sees that they have a couple of options, and they all seem to be bouncing around the same level of what would be the best option for us to do. The first option we can do is we just completely forget that we wasted an action disc and gain that galleon. Go ahead and get a couple trade routes, since we already have 1 trade route, which will allow us to lock in at least 3 trade routes, assuming we get some supplies, because right now we don't have any supplies to even start sailing the Spanish Main. So we know we're going to have to at least stop at this location, hopefully to at least get enough resources to go out there and start sailing the Spanish Main. That's our first option we can do. The second option we can do is we can go for the governor, which means we can control exactly how many guards are going to be every one of the forts, making it difficult for all the players. But again, that's going to ignore the fact that we do have a galleon, and we need to get some cannons so we can start attacking some of those galleons to get those extra victory points. Because remember, if we attack a galleon, a fort, and a city, we're going to get those 10 extra victory points at the end of this round. So that's our second option. Our third option is to hope that we get a little bit lucky and hope the other players don't see exactly what we're going for, and then we go ahead and take one of the longboats, ensuring that we don't need a lot of cannons, and then also taking the gun space as we follow after that. That means that we'll be able to attack a town without any problems, a fort without any problems, because we won't need a lot of cannons, and it'll give us enough cannons, hopefully, to also take out a galleon, giving us that extra bonus, and we think that's actually what we're going to do. So we're going to bypass trade routes, the governor, more crew members. We're going to bypass Francis Drake himself, because remember, the green player has the space locked in. Even though there's 2 circles, they're overlapping each other. Remind you that only the person who goes there first gets both those locations. So we're going to bypass all those, go for the longboats, which is going to give us the ability to not need as many cannons to go start attacking some of these forts. And that's going to give us our longboats, so we don't need a lot of cannons. That's the end of the turn for the Pasha player. We're now going to move on to the captain of the Elizabeth. Now, the captain of the Elizabeth is in a not so good position. They've kind of worked themselves into by not paying very close attention to what they can do. They could go ahead and bypass the governor and go ahead and get two crew members, which is only going to be 2 crew members, plus a possibility of a third, which is not going to be enough to attack a lot of these forts or a lot of these towns and get the combination for causing a lot of havoc across the Spanish Main. So they're thinking that they could go for some trade routes, which is going to be a basic waste of their galleon because they only have 3 cannons, and they definitely need a couple more cannons if they want to take out at least one of those galleons. And remember, we still have no supplies, so we can't sail across the Spanish Main yet. So we're lacking supplies. We definitely need to stop and get some supplies somewhere too. And not only that, we don't have any crew to back ourselves up. So what we're thinking as the captain of the Elizabeth is we're going to go ahead and take the governor, which means we can ensure that we're not going to need as many crew members, because we are going to be able to control exactly where the guards are going to be, which means as the Elizabeth player, we are controlling the admiral, and we're also now controlling the governor, giving us all the knowledge over the other players, giving us a slight advantage, which will hopefully compensate for the fact that we don't have a lot of cannons, and we don't have any crew members yet, and we still have 0 supplies. And finally, we now come to the captain of the Swan, who only has 1 decision. They have to use their second disc for Drake to finish listening to his grand stories about sailing across the Spanish Main. And after we're done listening to a story, we need to decide if we're going to either take one crew member or if we're going to take one cannon. And we need to figure out exactly what we want to be doing on our turn, because right now we have 2 crew members and 2 cannons and only enough supplies to make it all the way out to this section right here. Now we see that this ship right here, the most amount of cannons that can protect it, and remember the Elizabeth player is going to control how many cannons are protecting it, will be a total of 3 cannons protecting that location. And we also see that this is protected by 1 cannon, and the most it can be protected by is by 3 guards. We see this location will require 2 cannons and possibly up to 4 guards, and this location will only be protected by up to 1 guard itself. And we don't have any trade goods, so we're not worried about that at all. So we're seeing worst case scenario, because we definitely want to go after the galleon, is we're going to need the most cannons, is 3 cannons, depending on how the Elizabeth player decides to place out their knowledge from the Admiral. So we're judging from that. We're going to go ahead and decide that we're going to take a cannon, which guarantees that as long as we sail here first, we're going to get the best riches from attacking this location. Even though it's only worth 4 victory points, we will get that jewel if we get there first. And no matter what, we're definitely going to have enough cannons to take this location out, which is going to make us happy as the captain of the Swan. We now come to the Pelican captain's turn, and they need to figure out exactly what they want to do. And they do have a couple options, but one of the options is sounding extremely fantastic right now. They can basically look at the board and see that no other player is going to be able to make it out to this section. Most likely, the only one who could possibly make it out there is the Swan captain if they get the supply crate, although it would be possible for maybe the Elizabeth or maybe the Pasha player to get out that far, but most likely it's not going to happen because they're looking at exactly what kind of supplies they have and what they need and where they're standing. So they're thinking that they don't need supplies because we already have 4 supplies, meaning that we can go out as far as we want. We know that since we don't have a galleon, we're not attacking any ships at all. And we know that while the Informer is really nice, most likely we're not going to need to worry about, because we're pretty much most likely going to control Area 4, because most likely, unless the other players see what our strategy is, they're not going to be able to figure out exactly that we're going to be dominating a large section of the map without any competition at all. So we're going to bypass the guns because we don't need them because we have the longboat. We're going to go ahead and bypass the Informer because we really don't care right now with our strategy. And we definitely don't need supplies because we can make it as far as we want. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to take the Golden Hind, which guarantees that we are going to have 5 action discs, meaning we can go out to 5 different locations. And most likely 3 of the locations we won't have any competition for at all. And I actually mean 2 locations since we can't go after the galleon, but what I mean is this city and this fort won't be any competition for us at all if things fall in our favor. It's now the Pasha captain's turn. We know that the Pasha captain already knows that they need more guns because right now they only have 1 gun, so they're going ahead and visit the location that's going to sell them some guns. They're going to get 2 more guns to add to their ship, meaning they have a total of 3 guns and 5 total crew members, and they have 1 trade good, giving them a lot of options when the turn comes to go out there sailing across the Spanish Main. That's going to end the turn for the Pasha player. We're now going to go to the Elizabeth captain, who, remember, currently has no crew members. So, foregone conclusion for the Captain Elizabeth, they're going to go ahead and visit the crew members. They're going to go ahead and add 2 crew members to their ship. They're going to add to their shipboard, meaning they now have 2 crew members and 3 captains. Plus, remember, they get to place all the city guards in the forts, and they also get to place all the frigates protecting the galleons, so they know exactly what kind of resources they're going to need for every location to attack. It's now the Swan captain's turn, and they're going to go ahead and see that this nice spot right here that's going to offer them 2 guns is going to be a very good location, which is going to give them a lot of options, especially if one of those galleon locations ends up having a lot of cannons protecting it. And if not, that'll give us some options of attacking some additional forts as long as we have enough resources left over to do so. And now we get to move back to the Pelican player captain's turn to figure out exactly what they want to do. The Pelican player right now has 2 options, and one of the options is probably not going to be the best for them because they know that if they do that first option, the captain of the Elizabeth is going to make their life very, very difficult, and I'll show you exactly why. The Pelican player currently only has 6 crew members, but they don't need to worry about cannons when they attack any of the forts because they do have the longboats. Here's the problem though. The captain of the Elizabeth is going to control exactly which guards are going to be going to exactly which locations. So most likely, the Elizabeth player, when they're placing out those guards, is going to look and see that the Pelican player is the only person who can go out to these nice, resource-rich locations that have the gold and the higher victory point totals, and they can put out a +2 guard there, which is going to cost 4 crew members to go out to that location, which will leave us 2 crew members left. And then they can also put out a 1 here, which would be another 2 crew members, guaranteeing that we're going to attack 2 forts and pretty much nothing else. So we could just decide to go ahead and sail out and be the first person out the gate and have that nice bonus, but we may not have enough crew members to do everything we want to do, especially if the Elizabeth player can figure out exactly what we're trying to do and make our life very difficult. So having that thought process and realizing that going first is not going to be all that mandatory for us, and also realizing that the captain of the Elizabeth is control of the governor, which means they're going to get to move up in the player order anyways. So there's a good chance that if they move out right now, they can become the first player even if they wanted to. And that's something we need to take into mind when we plan our moves. So what we're going to go ahead and do is, instead of becoming the first player, which we know is not guaranteed anyway, we're going to go ahead and stop by the dockside. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take 1 resource there, which is going to be 1 crew member, because remember, we don't need guns and we don't need supplies because we can sail all the way across the map anyway. So we're going to take that final crew member, which is going to give us 7 crew members, which gives us a lot more potential to visit various locations and actually get the rewards from those locations, instead of being slowed down by the captain Elizabeth, who is pretty much going to control the board and have all the knowledge about where all the defenses are for this round. And of course, speaking of knowledge, knowledge is power, especially in a game like this. So the Pasha player is going to go ahead and take the Informer, which is going to give them some knowledge when it comes out to the sailing, because they're going to be able to look at a location and figure out exactly where the sailing order is, possibly see what kind of protections on each location, and give them an advantage that they're not willing to give up, especially since that nice Informer location is perfectly open and perfectly available for them right now, which moves us to the captain of the Elizabeth, who needs to figure out what they want to do in Plymouth Harbor. The captain of Elizabeth sees that it's pretty much now or never. They know they need supplies, and if they don't get supplies, they're not going to sail anywhere at all. And 1 gun really isn't going to help them, especially since they control the protection for all the locations out there on the board. Now, 1 gun might be nice. It's not going to be as nice as 3 supply crates, which is going to give them a lot of options on exactly where they can sail on their turn. So they're going to go ahead and capitalize on that, which is going to leave us with the Swan player's turn, who only has 1 option. They can go for supplies, they can go for the investor, or they can move all the way out the dockside, or they can move out and become the first player. The Swan captain actually does have 1 more option available to him. They do have the option to totally screw over the captain of the Pasha and guaranteeing that they're not going to be able to sail too far across the board, making their life a little bit more difficult. And I think that's exactly what we're going to do, because we're going to look over the Pasha player, see they have 0 supplies, and right now that means they can sail 0 places. So we're going to go ahead and move over to the supplies location, grabbing the last double supply location, which means now that we as a Swan player have 4 supplies, we can sail across the entire board, giving us more options with our more limited resources, and also ensuring the Pasha player, the furthest they'll ever get out is the section number 2, because the max amount of supplies they can get now is 1, 2. The captain of the Pelican is down to only 1 option, and 1 option only, since they visited all the locations and we can't backtrack at all. So what they're going to do is they're going to go ahead and decide to sail out, leaving their ship as the first ship on the outbound on the harbor. And this also means that they're going to be the first player. They're going to beat all ties when it comes to locations out there on the board. And that also means they get to place their discs first when it comes to placing their discs out on the board, giving them a slight advantage, which is good for us because we pretty much have all the supplies we need anyways. Not that we could do anything about it because we can't go backwards on the Plymouth Harbor. It's now the Pasha captain's turn, and they're quite frustrated because they realize they just put themselves in a corner by not paying attention to what the other players were doing. And they now see that they need supplies. They need supplies badly, so they're going to go ahead and get the 1 single supply chest that they're going to move onto their ship. That ends their turn, and now we get to move to the captain of the Elizabeth, who has some very, very restricted options. They can either visit the investor, which they're not sure they want to do yet, or they can go ahead and visit dockside, or they can go ahead and sail out and get to become the very first player, because not only do they become number 2, the governor is going to shift them to number 1, which is definitely an option they can think about right now. The only problem with the Elizabeth captain's options right now is they just don't have a lot of crew members, and they don't have a lot of cannons to do things, and yet they have the ability to sail very, very far on the board, and they have a galleon, and they have a lot of positives. They just don't have the resources to take care of all those positives. So they're actually going to go ahead and stop, and they're going to go ahead and visit the investor at a very early stage of the game. Now remember, you can only use the investor 1 time, so as soon as you use it, you need to discard your investor tile and you've lost access to it for the rest of the game. You're going to lose 4 victory points when you do it. That means we're going to move down to 0 victory points, and we don't need the galleon, so we're not going to do that. We're either going to take 2 crew members and a gun, or 2 guns and a crew member, and we need to figure out exactly which of those 2 options we want. The captain of the Elizabeth does the math very quickly and sees that the minimum amount of crew members they need to do everything they want, assuming everything goes in their favor and they get everything done in the order they want, they're going to need at least 3 crew members, and they're going to need a lot more cannons than that because they're going to have to attack multiple locations. So what they're going to do is they're going to head and take 1 crew member, which is going to move them up to 3 crew members, and they're going to go ahead and gain 2 cannons, and hopefully we've done the math correctly and we're not going to go ahead and kick ourselves in the behind when we realize that we've done the math wrong. Hopefully that's not going to happen. That's going to end the Elizabeth player's turn. It's now time for the captain of the Swan, who also has limited options. The captain of the Swan doesn't have very many locations to go to. They definitely don't want to go to the investor, so they're going to go ahead and go dockside, and they're going to look at what they need. We see that we currently have 4 supply barrels, so we're good on supplies. We have 5 cannons, but we don't have a lot of crew. So we're going to go ahead and take 1 crew member, add them to our ship. We're done with our turn, and now we get to move back to the captain of the Pelican, who's going to skip their turn since they're already on the outbound of the docks. So next thing we need to do is we need to move to the captain of the Pasha, who we know exactly what they're going to do because they are greatly lacking on supplies. That's going to allow them to go out onto their ship. So they're going to go ahead and take a supply barrel, so at least they have enough supplies to move halfway across the Spanish Main. It's now the Elizabeth player's turn, and they have 2 options right now. They can go ahead and get 1 more resource by going over to dockside, but if they do that, they know that the orange player, who happens to be, or I'm sorry, the green player, the captain of the Swan, they know that they're next in line, and the only option for the Swan player left is for them to move out to dockside, and would put them in 2nd place, which would be followed by the Pasha player, who would then move into 3rd place, which would leave us in last place. So is it worth it to go into last place, even though the government would move us up into 3rd place? But is it really worth being in 3rd place to get 1 more resource, considering everything we want to do? Or would it be smarter just to set sail right now, completely bypass the dockside, and thanks to the governor, that would actually put us in 1st place in the grand scheme of things? Well, doing the quick math and figuring out exactly what we want to do when we start setting sail, we figure out that it's better for us to go ahead and take 1st place, because that way we can at least guarantee we're going to get the resources we want if it comes down to a tiebreaker. Since we set sail first, the only thing we really need to worry about is the player who managed to get the Golden Hind, which means that basically the only person who's going to beat us at any of the locations, as long as we have the lower number disc, we're going to win all ties, is the player who captains the Pelican. So thinking about that, we're deciding that we're going to go ahead and we're going to set sail, so we're not going to place an action disc at the dockside. We are going to go ahead and move to be the 2nd place player. And now remember, when the governor resolves, that's going to go ahead and put us in 1st place. That does end the turn for the Elizabeth player, which moves us to the Swan captain. Only thing they can do is go ahead and move to the outgoing docks, which is going to go ahead and put us all the way with the Pasha captain. Again, the only thing they can do, since they've already used dockside, is to move to the outbound lanes. And we now have our shipping order for all the captains moving into the sailing phase. And now the captain of the Elizabeth gets to get some control of the board, because they get to decide exactly which frigates are going to be protecting the galleons. And they also get to decide how many guards are going to be each one of the forts, because not only do they control the admiral, the Elizabeth captain also controls the governor, means they get all the decisions for the hidden info, besides for shipping order, for this entire round. So the objective of the Elizabeth player is they want to make sure they're putting the ships out in the most advantageous position for them, so they get the least amount of resources needed to handle everything, but also in a way that's going to cause the most problem for all the other players, forcing them to burn through their resources, and hopefully preventing them from doing all the things they want to do on their turn. So the captain of Elizabeth, starting with the admiral, needs to decide exactly which kind of guardians they want for each one of these galleons that are shipping across the Spanish Main, so they can try to blow these ships out of the water and get all the supplies on these ships and give themselves the most points. Well, we know as the Elizabeth player that we have 3 supply crates, so we know we make it all the way out to the 3rd area of the board here at least. So that means we do have access to this ship and also this ship, and between the 2, we know this one's going to be the one that's worth more victory points. Yes, it's only 2 more victory points, but we also know we have 5 cannons and 3 crew members, and we want to make sure we're spending as many of those cannons as many of those crew members to get the most victory points, and hopefully we can also manage to get the big bonus for getting all 3 of our conquests done on our turn. So using that logic, we know that we want to go after this galleon right here because it's going to give us the most victory points. And we also know we have only 5 cannons. We also know we want to go at least against 1 fort and also 1 city, since these are also going to give us the gold. So we need to know that we need to have at least 2 cannons here plus 2 more cannons, which would leave us 1 cannon left over, which could give us some extra options if we play smart. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and place the 0 ship right here. Again, we're placing it face down without the other players knowing exactly what is guarding what at what location, because we want it to be a surprise and part of our plan to get the most points at the end of the game. Next thing we know is we know that the captain of the Swan is the only one who can come out here and get this final galleon here, which is going to give them the most victory points by attacking the ship, because it's worth 8 victory points versus this ship, which is only worth 4, which is half as many victory points. So knowing that and hoping our bluff is going to work perfectly, we're going to go ahead and put the 2 cannons out protecting that ship, meaning that if the player who is controlling the Swan wants this location badly, they're going to have to burn through 5 cannons, and looking at their player board, we know they only have 5 cannons on their ship. So hopefully we're going to force their hand and make them spend a lot of resources. It's going to leave the 1 cannon left over, which is going to protect this galleon right here, which is only going to take 2 cannons to take out. So again, this ship takes 2 cannons, and this one is going to take 5 cannons to take out. And remember, only the Captain of the Elizabeth has this knowledge. And now it's time to resolve the governor. Now remember, as the controller of the governor, the Elizabeth player gets to decide exactly which kind of guards and how many guards are protecting each one of these forts on the board. Knowing that, we know we want to attack at least 1 fort and we want to attack at least 1 city. The trick is we know we only have 3 crew members to do this, and we can come all the way out to Area 3. Now using that thought process, we need to figure out what's going to give us the most victory points. We know this is going to take at least 1 guard here, this is going to take at least 1 guard, and this location is going to take at least 2 guards to take out. Remember, we also want to take out a city, so we have the most amount of points for doing the most amount of conquests. And each one of these cities takes 1 guard. So we know that basically leaves us with only 2 guards or 2 crew members left over to take out some of these forts. And we know if we play just right, we can actually take out 2 forts and 1 city by playing the 0 here, meaning this one's only going to take us 1 guard to take that one out. And we're going to place the other 0 right down here. So we know this fort also is only going to take 1 crew member to take that one out. Only 1 guard here, 1 guard here. Each one of those is going to take 1 crew member apiece. Now we need to figure out where the other players are sailing and try to cause as much damage to them as possible, because we know that the players are going to try to go for the gold as much as they can. So we're going to make their lives as difficult as possible, especially knowing that the captain of the Pelican doesn't need cannons to attack any of the forts. And we also know that they have 4 supply barrels, so that means they're definitely going to go after the gold. So thinking about that, we're going to put the 2 out there, meaning if the captain of the Pelican wants this location bad enough, they're going to burn 4 crew members to get it, and leaves us only 1 location left over to get a guard, and it's going to be all the way down here in the Area 1. This fort is going to take 3 crew members to take out, because we have the 1 plus the 2, making this another location that's going to be very expensive for anyone to take out. The last thing for us to do as a control the governor, we get to move up 1 place in the shipping order. So we're going to bump player 1. We're going to become player 1 in the sailing order. Player 2 is going to bump up to player 2. 3 and 4 are going to stay in their current order. And that's going to be the shipping order for the shipping phase. The only thing left to do is to figure out how far each one of these ships can go. We know that the captain of the Swan, since they have 4 supply barrels, they can go all the way out to Area 4 on the board. We know the captain of the Elizabeth, since they have 3 supply barrels, they can sail all the way out to Area 3. The captain of the Pelican, since they have 4 supply barrels, they can go all the way out to Area 4. So they know they're going to be competing with the Swan player, at least for some of these locations. And then finally, the captain of the Pasha. Remember, they only have 2 supply barrels due to some pretty poor planning, maybe being outsmarted by the other players. The furthest they can sail is out to Area number 2. And we're going to mark these so we know just how far we can sail on the board when we start sailing. It's now time for every one of the players to put out their sailing disc and decide exactly where they're going to be sailing, to which locations. And they have to respect the rules of, if they don't have a galleon, they can't go ahead and attack the Spanish ships. And if they don't have enough supplies, they can't sail that far out on the board. Players are going to place their disc in shipping order, and remember, they can place 1 disc at a time, and they can pick any numbered one of their discs, because part of the game at this point is doing a lot of bluffing and trying to force the hand of the other players, and also trying to make sure you secure the locations you really want. So we're going to go ahead and start with the captain of the Elizabeth. They're going to secretly place their number 1 disc, because remember, they want to make sure that their plans that they planned out are going to come to fruition. And they're going to go ahead and claim this galleon right here at this location, because remember, we want this location. We know how many ships are protecting it. And if we're first to go there, we know that we're going to get most of the victory points thanks to the jewels. And we know that the only person we need to worry about possibly beating us is the person who controls the Golden Hind, which happens to be the captain of the Pelican. But remember, the captain of the Pelican doesn't have a galleon, so we know they can't come after this location. So by us placing our one disc here, we know we're a shoo-in. We've locked in this location, and we're going to get the jewels for the most victory points. Now it's up to the player of the Pelican to decide which one of their ships they want to sail. So the Pelican player is going to secretly choose the Golden Hind disc because they want a location. They want to make sure that they're going to get it, and this is part of the strategy. The way they're figuring it is they know that the captain of the Elizabeth is going to be mean and make this location the most expensive one to go for because it probably makes the most sense and they can kind of see the evil genius of the Elizabeth player and see how smart they are when they play this game. Anyways, they're pretty sure that this is going to be a very difficult location to go to, and it's going to take probably up to 4 resources, and they don't think they want to waste that many resources, especially since they assume that the Elizabeth is going to make their lives easier by having less resources in the area they can get to. So using that logic and trying to outsmart the Elizabeth player, they're going to secretly take the Golden Hind. They're going to place it face down right here on this fort, which means that no matter what, no matter who places discs at this location, they're going to get it first. And now it's time for the captain of the Swan to try to read the mind of the Elizabeth captain player. They need to figure out if the Captain Elizabeth is bluffing, knowing that we're not going to go for this location, knowing that it's going to have the most cannons, and that means we're going to go for that location. Or does the Captain Elizabeth know what I know, making a scene from a famous movie from the 80s flash in your mind all of a sudden here? But I digress. We need to figure out just how much the Elizabeth player is trying to outsmart us. Are they going to outsmart us by making us think that this one's going to be impossible for us? So we're going to go over here and play cautiously and have to go after the one that has the most cannons. Or were they just trying to make our life difficult, knowing that if we go here, this is going to have the most cannons and stopping us from going there and wasting all of our resources? The question is do we play safe or do we gamble, trying to outsmart the blue player and figuring out just how devious they are? Well, we don't want to take our chances. There's going to be a difference of 4 victory points there, but it's actually a difference of 6 victory points down there if we don't get all 3 of the conquests. So we're going to hedge our bets, secretly place the number 1 down on this location so we can go ahead and attack this galleon, which is going to leave us down with the Pasha player who needs to put their disc out. Well, the Pasha player knows that they have 2 trade routes. One they got from visiting the Queen, and the second one they're going to get from the Informer when I explain to the Informer how it works to you here in just a moment. So they know that they're the only person with at least 1 trade route. They're going to have 2 of them. So they know they can go ahead and burn their trade route disc and kind of play it safe and watch what the other players are doing and try to outsmart them at the same time. So we're going to go ahead and place our trade route disc right here, knowing that it doesn't really matter because the other players can't go for trade routes since they don't have any of the trade cubes. And that means we can guarantee we're locking in the indigo. And that's where we're going to place our disc. We're going to go ahead and quickly off camera place the rest of the disc of the players so we can fast forward this and you can see the resolution of how this is going to work. Now that all the players have placed out their shipping discs, the only thing left to do is to go ahead and handle the Informer, which means we're going to go ahead and get 1 supply cube for having the Informer, which is going to put us at 2 as the captain of the Pasha. We got the 1 supply cube for taking the Queen, and we have the second one for taking the Informer, which is going to give us 2 trade routes, which is going to allow us to go after these 2 trade routes right here. Now we get to use the special ability Informer. We have 1 of 2 options. Either we can look at all the sailing discs at 1 single location and see the sailing order of all the players at location. And then if we decide to do that, we can move any 2 discs of ours anywhere on the board. We don't even need to move the discs that we just looked at. We can move any 2 of our discs on the board. The other option is we can look at the Guardians at a location, and then if we don't like what we can see, we can go ahead and sail off to another legal location. Well, the captain of the Pasha is very concerned about this fort, wanting to make sure that they're low enough in player order to get at least a shot at this fort. Because you see that we currently have 3 shipping discs going after this location, so that means that one of the players at this location is not going to get any goods at all because only 2 players can attack each location, except for this one spot right here. Remember, first come, first serve. It is a race in this game. So secretly, the captain of the Pasha is going to go ahead and look at all the discs at this location, and they're going to see the order that everything is going to resolve, and they're going to decide if they like the fact of those discs being at that location, or if they want to rearrange some of their discs that they currently have on the board. Well, the captain of the Pasha sees that it's going to be, they're going to go first, and then blue and green both have a 3, so the tiebreaker is going to be shipping order. So the captain of the Pasha now knows that they're going to be first at this location. The captain of the Elizabeth is going to be second at this location, and then finally the captain of the Swan is going to be third. Now we don't have to place them back in any order. We can kind of help the bluff by kind of putting it however we want, but at least we have that knowledge and we know exactly what's going to happen. Now we can decide to go ahead and rotate any two of our discs currently on the board if we want, and we're actually quite happy with what we have because we know where we have our other discs and we know we locked in this location, so we're good with our informer phase. It's now time to go ahead and reveal all the discs and see exactly where everybody is going to be shipping, and also place our ghost ships out so we know exactly which sailing order is going to be for the rest of the game as a reminder. So now we just simply reveal every single location. We're going to figure out the sailing order for all of the locations and figure out who is going where, who is going to be first at those locations, and we need to make sure we organize the discs by sailing order, and we make sure we check to see who's going to break which ties. So we see that green and orange both have a 1 here. Green is earlier in the sailing order, so they get to attack that ship first. We already know the results of this location right here. Orange is going to be first, blue is going to be second, and that means that green is not going to get anything from this location unless one of those players decide they don't want to go to that location for some strange reason, such as not having enough resources. Golden Hind trumps everything out at that location, so we know that the red player definitely gets that location. We have a contest between these two players. We have a 2 and a 4, so red's going to win out there. We have a 1 and a 2. Red is going to win out there. And finally, we've revealed all the locations on the board. If any of the players happen to have ghost ships, they'd be pulled back and they'd be placed at the locations where the ships currently are at to make sure we remember the sailing order so it's never forgotten. Because thematically, and to make it look kind of cool, we're actually going to sail our ships to the various locations as we resolve each one of the locations across the board. So the first thing that's going to happen is we're going to go ahead and resolve the player who has the Golden Hind. So they're going to go ahead and sail over to this location. And since we've arrived at this location, we now need to see what kind of guardians are protecting this location. We said there's going to be at least 1 guard at the city, or at this fort, plus we need 2 cannons to take it out, unless we happen to have one of the longboats. So since the captain of the Pelican also has a longboat, they can completely ignore the guns, because basically what's going to happen is their ship's going to sail in, stay a little bit off the shore, and they're going to send some crew members in on their longboats, which is thematically why you get to ignore these cannons. So we need to look at the location. We need to discard 1 crew member to take out that location, which we will gladly discard 1 crew member, send them out to do some dirty work, and go ahead and take over that location. So that's going to give us 1 gem, 1 gold, which we're going to put in our treasure chest, which will be extra victory points at the end of the game. Then the red player is going to go ahead and score 4 victory points on the victory point track, moving us up to 8. And since we attacked a fort, we need to mark the attacking of the fort, so remember that we are working towards getting the extra victory points for doing a variety of missions during this round. Now that we've resolved the Golden Hind, it's now time for all the players to move to their number 1 locations. So the red player is going to sail over here. Blue is going to move over here to the galleon they're going after. The green player is going to sail over towards this galleon that they're attacking. And finally, the blue player is going to go ahead and sail. Oh, they're sailing right there. Sorry. The orange player is going to go ahead and sail over to this location right here, which means both of these players are contesting for this 1 ship right here. Unfortunately, the green player does get first dibs. Now we get to resolve each one of these locations in player order. So starting with the blue player, they're going to go ahead and resolve. And we already know what the ship is right here because remember, we placed out all the frigates that are protecting the guardians because we controlled the admiral. So we know that we need to discard 2 cannons because no crew ever protects ships. It's always cannons. That's all we need to do. So we will gladly discard 2 cannons from our ship. That means that we are going to get the gem for attacking this ship as the first time player to attack the ship. We're going to get 6 victory points, which is good because remember we're currently at 0 because we used the investor. And since we did attack a ship, we need to mark that we attacked the ship on the track, which is going to give us some extra victory points at the end of the round. That's it for the blue player's first disc. We now get to move over to the red player's first disc, which is a city, which only has 1 guardian. And remember, even if it did have guns, we do have the longboat, so we don't have to worry about it. We will gladly discard 1 crew member from the city, which is going to give us the gold. It's going to give us 1 victory point. And since we attacked the city as a red player, we need to make sure we mark that. That'll resolve our disc. We'll flip it over and move over to the green player who's going to go ahead and resolve this location. Well, green is definitely going to resolve this location because they know if they don't, the orange player is going to very easily get it. So let's see what we need to compete against. We see that there's 2 cannons there, so it's good that we came here versus coming over here because at least now we know that this was the easier target to go for and we would not have had enough guns to do everything we wanted to do on our turn. So we are pretty much happy that we did decide to come over here. So the first thing we do is we take the gem, the jewels from attacking the ship. We discard the 2 cannons, which is what we need to do to defeat this galleon. And then we're going to gain 4 victory points, moving us up to 8 victory points. And then we just need to mark that we did attack a ship. So we get those extra victory points at the end of this round. It's now the captain of the Pasha's turn to decide if it's still worth it to attack this ship, because we're not going to get any jewels from it because the jewels have already been taken off of it. Well, we're going to go ahead and do it because the option is not going there, not getting victory points at all. So we're definitely going to go ahead and do it. What we need to do is discard 2 cannons from the ship. We're going to go ahead and get 4 victory points for doing so. And then we need to mark the fact that we did attack a ship, and that's going to end our turn for both of these players. All the players have resolved their stage 1 discs. It's now time for everybody to move up and to resolve their stage 2 discs. So all the players sail over to their locations where their stage 2 discs are. And then we just need to go ahead and resolve and figure out exactly what's going to happen from going to every one of those locations. Remember, we do it in play order. Starting with the blue player, we need to discard 1 crew member or 2 guns. If we want this location, we definitely do, because we want the bonus that's going to be given to us by attacking all 3 locations. So we lose 1 crew member, no problem at all. We're going to lose 2 cannons for attacking this location. Again, not a problem. We don't have the longboats to make up for it, but at least we are going to get 4 victory points, moving us all the way up to 10. And we get to mark the fact that we did attack a fort for the extra victory points at the end. So that's definitely a nice bonus for us. Go ahead and resolve the red player. They're going to go ahead and go over to this location right here, which is simply going to require them to discard 1 crew member because it is a city, something we can definitely handle very easily. We're going to resolve that. We're going to get the gem for attacking it as the red player, so we're happy with that. We're also going to score 2 victory points. And then as the red player, we need to mark the fact that we did attack a city, which we've already done. We've already attacked a fort, so we're good on that location too. So we're pretty happy with our results. We don't get the double mark it, but at least we know that we're going to get some extra victory points. We get to move on to the green player, who needs to decide if they want to discard 1 crew member. They'll gladly discard 1 crew member. That's going to give them 1 victory point. They have successfully attacked a city, so we need to mark the fact that we attacked a city. We're done resolving. We don't get any gems, but at least we're going to get that bonus at the end of the round. Finally, we move to the captain of the Pasha. They're going to need to reveal exactly what is guarding this location. We're going to see that there are 0 guards at this location, which the blue player knew and they were planning for, but they'll still get the results of it, but they're not going to be able to get the extra gem that the Pasha captain is going to gladly take. They need to discard 1 crew member and 1 gun, which we definitely have both of. Unfortunately, it looks like at the end of this round we're going to have a lot of extra crew members, but that's just what happens sometimes. We're going to go ahead and take the silver, which is going to be our treasure at the end of the game for extra victory points. And then we're going to get 3 victory points, moving us up to 11. And we also need to mark the fact that as the orange player, we successfully attacked a fort, which is going to give us those extra victory points. Looks like all of our players have resolved their 2s. And now it's up to all of our players to sail out to their number 3s and figure out exactly what kind of rewards they're going to get for sailing out to their 3s. And we're just going to continue resolving like this till the round is completely over. The blue player gets to resolve first. They need to discard 1 crew and 1 cannon. They decide if they want to do it. They're going to go ahead and do it because they want to get all the points they can at this point. This location only gives them 3 victory points. So we move from 10 to 13. We're marked the fort. We've already attacked the fort, so don't need to worry about that at that point. We're not going to get the gems since somebody's already received the gems from this location. Now we move over to the captain of the Pelican, who needs to resolve this location. And they're going to see to attack this location, they need to have 3 crew members and they need to discard 2 cannons if they want to attack this location. Remember, we do have a longboat, so we can completely ignore the cannon requirements. The only thing we need to discard is we need to discard 3 crew members, and now we need to make a decision really, really quick. As the Pelican player, we see that we still have 2 location discs we have yet to resolve. We know this location is going to take 3 crew members to take care of, and we know at this location, since we've seen the other location disc, is definitely the one that has the 2. So we decided to come over to this location. It's going to take 4 crew members for us to go ahead and resolve that location. So we basically have a choice now as the Pelican player. We can bypass this location, ignore the silver, sail over here and get the gold, which is going to be worth 4 victory points, plus 5 for a total of 9 victory points. Or we can take this location, which is going to be 6 victory points, plus the silver, which is 3 for a total of 9 victory points. On the surface, it seems like it's a wash, whichever location we decide to take. But in reality, it's not a wash, because what we're going to do is we're going to take this location, which is going to take 3 crew members to go ahead and take out. We're going to go ahead and get the silver from attacking this location and put it in our treasure chest. And then we're going to go ahead and gain 6 victory points, moving us all the way up to 17 victory points. And then we need to mark the fact that we attacked a fort, which is already done. So it seems like a foregone conclusion. Didn't really matter, does it? But it really does, because since we are done with a mission, we now have the option to sail all the way back to Plymouth Harbor. We're going to be first in line, and since we're the first to sail back, we're going to get those extra 2 victory points, meaning that taking this location and completely ignoring this location was the better deal for us, because now we're going to be first in Plymouth Harbor the next round. We also got the extra 2 victory points, and now we have a little bit of a lead over all the other players. It's now time for the Captain of the Swan to resolve, but unfortunately, only the first 2 people to arrive at a location successfully interact with it get the reward for this location. So unfortunately, the green player is out of luck. They're not going to get any rewards for this location. It's basically a waste of space for them, and they need to decide if they just want to go ahead and sail back for 1 victory point, or if they want to take their 4 disc, which is going to give them 1 victory point plus a gem. Well, we know exactly what we're going to do. Now it's time for the Captain of the Pasha to decide which resource they want to go ahead and get. We're going to go ahead and decide that we're going to take the sugar. We're going to take the sugar and add this to our trade routes. And then we're going to discard a trade goods cube. So now that we know that we've established this trade route, that's it for this player. And now everybody needs to sail to their number 4 discs and resolve their number 4 disc. Everybody except the Captain of the Pelican, who decided that they were going to sail back early to make sure that they get the lead in the next round. So now again, everybody needs to resolve. We'll start with the Captain of the Elizabeth, who's going to go first. They're going to resolve this location, which is going to cost them 1 crew member. Looks like the Captain of the Elizabeth did their math very, very well and had some very good fortune with all their decisions. They're going to go ahead and gain 2 victory points, and they're also going to mark the fact that they attacked the city. They're going to go ahead and sail back, putting them in number 2, which is going to give them 1 more victory point. We bypass the red player and we move over to green, who needs to discard 1 crew member. We can handle that crew member discarding easily. Unfortunately, we do have extra resources, but that's what happens sometimes. We are going to get the gem at least, and we're also going to get the 1 victory point at least, so it's not a total loss for the green player, who's now going to sail back to be number 3. We now come to the Captain of the Pasha. They need to figure out which trade route they want to get. They're obviously going to take the Indigo, which is the only way you can get it is at this location. Since you're there, you might as well enjoy it. We're now going to sail back, and now all the players need to gather up all their discs from every one of the locations, and we need to figure out exactly if there's any extra victory points for any of the players, and I can guarantee you there will be some extra victory points. We need to resolve those very quickly, and then we need to wrap everything up, clean everything up, and get everything ready for the second round of the game. So now let's go ahead and figure out exactly which kind of extra victory points all the players are going to get. We're going to go ahead and start with the blue player. Since they have 3 discs and they managed to do 3 different missions total, they're going to get the most victory points. If you complete 3 different missions, you get 10 victory points, which is going to move us from 16 all the way up to 26, giving us a pretty darn good commanding lead. We'll move over to the orange player next. They have 2 different missions that they managed to complete, so they're going to gain 4 victory points for the orange player, moving us from 11 all the way up to 15. Then we're going to resolve the red player, who also completed 2 different missions, which is going to give them 4 victory points, 19 to 23. And then finally, the green player also completed 2 missions, giving them 4 victory points from 10 all the way up to 14. Of course, the Pasha player would have discarded this trade route cube earlier when they took the Indigo trade route. Sorry, I forgot to do that. But we now need to finish the rest of the extra scoring and figure out everything that all the players are going to be getting. So we need to look at whoever controls the Admiral and whoever controls the Governor, and they're going to get some extra victory points depending on what kind of resources are left on the board. First, we're going to go ahead and start with the Admiral, and the Admiral says for every gold that's left on the board, the control of the Admiral is going to get 1 victory point. We see that there is 1 gold left on the board, which means the Admiral player, which is the Elizabeth captain, is going to get 1 victory point. Then we need to see if there's any silver left on the board, and whoever controls the Governor is going to get 1 victory point for every single silver left on the board. That resolves the Admiral, and that resolves the Governor. They're taken care of. They can be moved back to their section of the supply board. Every one of the players can put all their supplies that were not spent on the prior round back on the board. And remember, you don't put your trade routes back. That's the only thing that's going to stay on your boards are the trade routes, because all the trade routes are going to be scored at the end of the game, and you get the basic score based on however many different trade routes you get, and you want the largest variety of trade routes, which is going to give you the most victory points, which will be 26 victory points at the end of the game. All the ships that are protecting are going to be taken back. Those are going to be reset also. All the guards that are protecting every one of these forts are going to be reset, and then they're either going to be put out randomly again or placed by whoever happens to take the Governor. The cubes for each one of the locations that the players can sail are going to be taken back. These cubes are going to be reset. And then finally, we just need to do some quick refilling of the board and reshuffling of these galleons and figuring out exactly which one of these galleons is going to be at which location, kind of changing up the strategy, and we're figuring out exactly where the ships are going to be placed for the players to go after. We're going to refill all the gems for all the locations. We're going to refill all the silver for all the locations that get the silver. And then finally, we're going to refill all the gold for all the locations that happen to get the gold. You see, there's a little bit of cleanup between every one of the rounds. It can be a little bit slow. And that's why I insist that if you want to have the most fun with the game, you pick somebody who has the responsibility of filling up certain sections of the board to make this go much quicker. So this is a little bit of a quicker deal, so you don't have to waste so much time doing this, because it does take a couple of minutes to do it. But once you're done and once you're used to doing it, it's not too bad. Just pick a player who's going to handle each one of the sections, and things go much quicker. Let everybody get all their resources back. And normally I would do this off camera, but this is going to be a point on my review to show you that there is a little bit of downtime between every one of the rounds. And that's why I'm kind of subjecting you to this, so you can see that why I'm going to make that comment when I actually talk about that as part of the review when I'm done with this video. Now that all this has been done, all the cleanup's been done, the round is ready for the next round. The last thing we need to do is we need to shuffle up all these location tiles, and we need to place these location tiles out on the Plymouth board itself in any order we like. Well, we randomize them, and then we're going to place them all out on the board, which is going to change the layout of Plymouth Harbor for all the players who have to go out there, go across Plymouth Harbor to get all the resources to start the next round. That is everything done. You now have seen a complete full round of Francis Drake played through. This is going to be done 3 times. At the end of the game, whoever has the most victory points is going to be the winner. And don't forget at the end of the game to also add in the scores players are going to receive for all the trade routes. And also don't forget to add in the scores that players are going to get for any gems they happen to have in their treasure chest, which is going to be extra secret victory points at the end of the game, which is one of the things that's very cool, because you never know exactly where your point standings are at until the last round is played through. I hope you enjoyed this playthrough video for Francis Drake. I'm going to go ahead and clean everything up and give you my final opinion of Francis Drake.